So I ordered your book, but it's not coming until tomorrow, which sucks. And but I was able to get the Kindle sample from Amazon, and the first part of chapter 3 was very, very descriptive. Oh, I probably should start recording this. The first part of chapter 3 is like really descriptive when you're talking about smelling the smoke in the hallway of the.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. Very
That is
descriptive.
super powerful. So fun fact, when you write a book, you have to read it a gazillion times through the editing process. And no matter how many times I read my book, there were 2 points where I would always start crying, and that was one of them. And then I recorded the audiobook, and that was like one of the hardest parts to read out loud because I would just start crying.
Now I'm not surprised. It's like I was starting to read it, and then part of me wanted to stop reading it because it was just too much, too in depth about it. Which is, I mean, it's good, but it's also like I'm gonna.
Well, it's an interesting thing about that because originally my book started out very differently because a good writer brings the reader into their world. So like that for me, that's good feedback that you were brought into it. But the downside of that is if you're feeling quote unquote negative feelings like pain or anger or whatever, your reader gets brought into that too. So I didn't want to start the book out in that tone because I was like, that's going to turn away a lot of people. But it goes back into that kind of darkness at several other points in the book. So I was like, well, they might as well know what they're in for. So I totally scrapped the original beginning and started out in that tone. And I've had reviews say like, oh, it was too depressing, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't get into it. And I'm okay with that because it's like, okay, then it's not the book for you because it gets even worse later. So it's like I was trying to weed out those people. So my strategy actually worked. And then the people who don't mind going that deep, and it can be intense, but if you don't mind going that deep, you stick with it for the rest of the book. So it was actually intentional that I started out that way.
One of the things that you said, I was actually going to get to this like later on, but probably do now. One of the things that you said, one of your 3 biggest passions in life was connection over vulnerability. You still believe that, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Then why did you write the book if you prefer not being vulnerable? Is it for the
No, I
connection?
do prefer being vulnerable. What I guess maybe I wasn't conveying that appropriately because the book is me being vulnerable. And if that's too deep for the reader, then it's not the book for them because I get even more vulnerable later on. So if I can't connect with them from that passage, I'm definitely not going to connect with them with anything later in the book. So it's better if they do stop reading at that point.
Okay, so it's connection through vulnerability.
Yes, because the more vulnerable I am, the more someone else will connect with me if they're willing to go that deep as well.
That's something about like a lot of podcasts that I do is that unless like sometimes they're not like they're kind of going around a certain topic and they're not really getting to a certain point, and it's like I have to be emotionally vulnerable to them, and then they're like, oh, okay, here's everything I was gonna say, and then they start getting into it, and it becomes like a much better conversation after that.
Oh, for sure. I lead workshops on the book, and there's this one exercise I always do at the end. It's called Instagram versus reality. So we all take a picture. It doesn't even have to be necessarily something we've posted on Instagram, but a picture or something that we've somehow conveyed publicly where we look happy, but then tell the backstory of what was really going on behind the picture. And I'm like super vulnerable all through the workshop. And the first time I did it, I was like, I don't know how well this is going to go. Because to your point, some people can like talk circles around the whole subject and not want to go there. So the first time I did it, I wasn't really expecting much. But because I led with vulnerability, everybody was super vulnerable. So I do that exercise in every workshop that I do now, and I love it. But again, to your point, I have to lead with the vulnerability. Otherwise, they're not going to go there either.
Yeah. Speaking of Instagram, there was one story maybe a couple days ago that you posted where you were talking about how you always go on this walk at least twice a month up a mountain. How did that all get started?
Well, so I had a friend who used to live here, and I remember the first time I did that hike. So just to give everyone a background, even you, because you just saw
Yeah, I just saw
like a
it.
few
Yeah.
snippets. Yeah. But basically, it's a inactive volcano. And during World War II, because there was the bombing of Pearl Harbor, so there was a huge military presence here to further not only defend the island, but the whole United States, because this is the in-between. If Japan were going to mainland United States, they have to pass in between here too, which is probably why they chose to bomb Pearl Harbor, because it was closest. But anyway, so there was a huge military presence here. So on a top of a lot of the mountains, there's these old bunkers where the soldiers used to be stationed. And this one is no different. It's an inactive volcano. And there used to be a railroad track that went up the mountain that would take supplies and probably the people as well to this bunker at the top of the mountain. And so the dilapidated railroad became stairs. So it's usually called the Cocoa Head Stairs. Yeah. And so it turned into a really popular hike. And they actually just renovated the stairs a few years ago. But anyway, when my friend used to live here, the first time I did it, and I'm in shape, and this is when I first did it, I like ran marathons. Like that's how in shape I was. But it killed me because it's just like a straight ascent. Just think, this isn't a good example. I used to live in Chicago, and one time I did the Sears Tower stair climb, and I know that's not something people would normally do, but it's the same concept of just like a straight ascent with no break. A lot of people have to get rescued because it doesn't actually look that hard or intimidating, but it is. So a lot of people think like, oh yeah, I can do it, and then they have to get helicopter rescued. But anyway, just to explain what it is. So I had done it a few times before I moved here, and because it's so difficult and challenging, I was like, okay, if I do it at least once a month, then after a while, it will become easier. And it did, but it actually took a long time before it actually got easier because I always struggled at the very last part because at the end, it actually gets steeper and harder. So you're already tired, yeah, and worn out and like sucking wind. But that's how rewarding it is. So it actually became a challenge for me. Like I want to get better. I want to improve my time. I want to get, more efficient at doing this. So I set a challenge for myself when I moved here to do it at least once a month. And I've stuck to it. Sometimes I do it 2 to 3 times a month. The only time I didn't stick to it was during COVID because it was legally closed. But I think for like 2 to 3 months, but I made up for that time in other months by doing it multiple times. So for 7 years, I've done it at least once a month. And the day I did it just this week, it was like the heat of the day, but it was the only time I could think of to do it before the end of the month. And that's how committed I was to sticking to my goal.
Yeah. Is that kind of like life where when you start something, it looks easy in the very beginning, but it could be like almost when you get to the very end, it becomes even steeper?
I think so. And also another thing about that hike is there's a part in the middle because for the most part, it's the railroad or the stairs. It's just on the mountain. But then there's this part where there's kind of a ravine. So you're walking across stairs over air. So if you fall off, there's like probably a 20-foot fall. So that's also scary. So yeah, it is like life because it starts out easy and you're like having fun. You're like, yeah, I can do this. And like the views are great. And then you get to that bridge and then it's like, okay, this is kind of scary. And there is a walk around to the side, but I've never done it because it's like, I don't want to be a weenie. I want to challenge myself. But you have people who are taking the side route because they don't want to get out of their comfort zones. And because it's really not that hard. You really just don't look down. But it's the whole illusion of it, right? Because you know that there's no ground underneath you to protect you and you don't want to fall because it's scary. So you take the safe route and go around. So I think that's very much like life. And then after the bridge is actually the hardest part because it gets steeper.
That some people will be happy to take the shortcut, but the reward that you get from going through the best way to get through it is better than the actual shortcut.
Well, and also with life, like the best way to get through challenges is to go through them, right? Because for a long time, I would avoid my feelings. I avoided doing all the inner work on myself and I would, reach for all these illusions. But really my life got better when I faced myself and actually started doing the inner work and challenging myself. So yeah, I think there's a huge relation to life.
Is it illusions or a psychological defense?
I think that could be used interchangeably, right? Because I don't know. What do you mean by that? I think we're agreeing. We're just using different words.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking there's obviously there's I forgot which part of the brain it is, but you can have like real experiences, and then you can have very deep emotional experiences that your brain will interpret as a real experience. So, like whether it's like a dream or something that's like really emotionally charged, that being so having like a lot of emotion through that, even though if it never actually happened, the illusion of it happening, it becomes reality. And then through that, your brain creates like a psychological defense to any future things that will cause that to happen again.
So it is a little different because I guess I'm referring to, like, for example, going over the bridge. Yeah, there is a risk of falling, but it's very slim. You're just creating more of a fear that needs to be. I don't even know how to describe it.
Yeah, it's I bolted it and I don't know where it went. Um, Give me like 1 second. It's anticipatory anxiety.
Yes.
So there was one thing on your website, which is one of the things you want to do is the power to transform insecurity into courage. Specifically, release the fear of not being enough and step into your power with bold self-trust, allowing your true self to lead with confidence and clarity. And I was thinking, like, why insecurity? I took the, do you know the understandmyself.com thing?
Mm-mm.
So, there's the Myers-Briggs personality test and then the Big Five.
Yes.
So the Understand Myself is with like Jordan Peterson and like a couple other psychologists. And when I did the test, it was like 90% accurate. It told me that I was like a partying guy, which is not at all, but everything else is pretty good. And one of the criteria is withdrawal. And since like your inner glow coaching is specifically more focused on women than men, individuals moderately high in withdrawal may feel higher than average levels of anticipatory anxiety. This makes it more challenging for them to approach new, uncertain, unexpected, threatening, or complex situations. And women are higher in withdrawal than men. The mean percentile for women in the general population is 60. For men, it is 40. So is that what it could possibly be? It's not necessarily not like an illusion, but just the defense of anxiety.
Yeah, I like that explanation better because you just have it built up because you've never experienced it. So you're trying to anticipate the experience and you're creating something in your head, but you don't know how it's really going to play out. But yeah, I think that's nailed it. Like, because then you have that anxiety going over the bridge and then that's all you're focused on. Because you get what you focus on, right? So if you're focused on the anxiety and the risk and the fear, then that's going to be your experience of doing it. Or you may chicken out and go around the side path.
By breaking the anxiety or the fear, the illusions, would you be able to create confidence from that?
Yes, because I encourage this for everyone. I do this in my own life. I intentionally do things to get outside my comfort zone. For example, I've been bungee jumping, I've been skydiving, I've jumped out of a helicopter into the ocean, I've jumped off rocks into the ocean. And just to be clear, I'm terrified. Oh, I've also swam with sharks without a cage. And just to be clear, I didn't do any of these things for fun. I did it to get out of my comfort zone to prove that doing the actual thing isn't as scary as it is in my head. And in every case, that was true. None of those things were as scary as I made it up to be in my mind. And that's what builds confidence.
Was there a time in your life when you didn't want to break out of your comfort zone?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Was that like mostly childhood or was it like early 20s?
It was mostly childhood. I think the first thing I did to really get out of my comfort zone is I moved away to go to college. So that was huge because it was new environment, new everything. But even then, I'm trying to think of like the main milestones of my life where I broke out of my comfort zone.
Well, maybe to add context, what was your childhood like?
Oh, so my childhood, both of my parents did not get out of their comfort zones at all. So the message was, it's scary, it's too risky. So I had like the fear instilled in me, like you shouldn't do it. Or even as a child, I remember I voiced to my parents that I wanted to live in Hawaii and I wanted to have a red convertible. Like those were like two of my biggest dreams. And they were like, oh, it's too far away. It's too expensive. It's too risky. Car insurance. And like, I'm a kid. They're like, car insurance is going to cost more with a
Taxes
convertible.
and
Yeah. So I was basically, indirectly told, like, don't dream big, stay in your lane. And I don't really know.
what's kind of like palace conditioning.
Yeah, so I was conditioned that way, and I think it was just the desire, because it's like I saw other people doing things with their lives, so it's like I see it's possible, so it must be possible for me. I think that might have been my mindset. I don't really recall, because there have been times in my life where it's like I get the courage and I do the thing, but I was never conditioned that way from childhood.
I can't remember which part of your book it was, but there was one passage where you're talking about how when you moved to Chicago, you were hoping your father would encourage it, would be like supportive about it, but he was like the complete opposite. And I remember my sister kind of did not the same thing, but it was so we have a storage unit that we both share, and the company had to raise the prices to like match the market pricing and everything, and it was like $20 more or something, $25 more. And my sister was like, I don't want to pay that more money. I don't, that's too much. It's $12 more. We're paying half of it. So she's only paying $12 more. And so she goes on this, like, we're talking for like 2 hours. She's like, this is not worth it. I need to find a different place because this is like not worth my money. And I'm like, okay. And she's going on and on. And at some point I realized I can't fight her about it. I can just ask her, what can I do to help her? As much like I told her straight up, I don't agree with what you're doing, but if I can help you do it, let me know what I could do. And well, she ended up not doing anything, which I kind of anticipated, but it's, I just thought it was a really cool, thing. It's like, you can't force someone to change, but you can at least change yourself and not resist it. So that like, if they make a mistake, it's fine. Like they'll fall flat on their face and you'd be there to pick them back up.
I unfortunately didn't have the support of either one of my parents in the brave things that I've done in my life. They always, and I wish I could say I could remember at least like one supportive thing that one of them has said to me, and I cannot. But I think what motivates me is that I've had other people, even complete strangers, say that I've inspired them to do XYZ, or even people have told me, oh, you've inspired me to write a book. So it's like you never really know who else is paying attention.
How do you get the one thing that was there, the internal validation?
So for me, I grew up with the belief that I didn't deserve to be loved. So as a result, I felt like I had to perform or somehow earn love or external validation and worth. So for me, and I lived that way because I'm 45 now. I lived that way for 40 years. It didn't work. What is the saying? Like the definition of insanity is like doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Somehow I was still expecting happiness and fulfillment outside of myself. It wasn't working. And I was just like stuck in that hamster wheel of trying to earn love and worth outside of myself. So it wasn't until I hit my rock bottom moment that I was like, okay, I need to actually change how I'm living my life. And for me, that came, and for most people, that comes from a change in your internal belief system. Because once you change that, then your behaviors change to correspond to whatever that internal belief was. So I had to learn that I do deserve to be loved and I'm worthy as I am. I don't have to be doing anything. I can just be myself. And so then my behaviors correspond with that because now that my validation is from within and I already know my worth, then I can act accordingly. So for example, I used to have zero boundaries because I was a people pleaser and I wanted to do things for external validation. But now that I respect myself, like I have certain limitations of, because people will try to take advantage of you and you have to set that boundary or whatever the situation is. So for me, I had to change that limiting belief and get my own internal validation which, by the way, that's where you get happiness and fulfillment. It's not from all these outside places. It's from validating yourself and actually knowing your worth, because then you have the confidence to set the boundaries. And when you respect yourself, other people respect you more. It's funny because you think people pleasing would work because you're trying to earn someone's respect, but they actually respect you less. So when you actually, and not in every case, there are people who will be upset by your boundaries, but in most cases, when you respect yourself and set that boundary, then other people will respect you more too.
Is that because seeing someone who's a people pleaser is almost like seeing someone who's desperate for attention?
I think so, because now that I have boundaries, sometimes I see people who are desperate, like have no boundaries, and they're desperate for that external validation. And I kind of cringe because I realize that's what I used to look like. And and now I can see through it. And I think sometimes, even if you can't see through it, I think some other people kind of get a weird feeling about it. They just can't put their finger on it. So yes, I do think that's the reason, whether you can name that that's the reason or not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Do you try to understand how someone else looks at you based on perception or intuition?
Do I try to interpret how someone thinks of me?
Meaning, like the way that you, like threat perception in a way? Like, do you try to perceive how someone is thinking of you, or do you try to just use your intuition about like more of a feeling of how they're responding to what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so that's been a huge part of my journey, is developing my intuition, because, and I've developed it a lot, but sometimes, actually, I was on a podcast yesterday. We were talking about intuition. Sometimes like why someone may seem like a threat, but other times you may just get a weird feeling about it. But when you're so connected to yourself and so in tune to your intuition, you don't even question the why. You're just like, hey, I have a weird feeling about this person, so I'm going to keep them at arm's length, or do whatever you need to do to keep yourself safe from that person until you can suss out if they are actually safe or not. But I firmly believe in using your intuition to evaluate other people if you are connected to it and can rely on it. Because in my early stages, I was not connected to my intuition, so it wasn't a good deciding factor. But now that I'm so in tune with it, I use it all of the time with people, because you can feel someone else's energy.
How would you define energy?
That's a good question. It's because for me, it's just a feeling. So I don't even know how to describe that. Because I've had a few conversations recently. I walked away and I'm like, man, that felt so weird. And I actually took the time to reflect on, why did that feel weird? And in both cases, the reason was, well, I guess they're kind of similar. One was, I was talking to this girl. It was a networking call. We had never talked before. She didn't ask me any questions about myself. She talked about herself the entire time. It was all about her. And in the moment, because I was interested in learning about her, in the moment, I didn't think anything of it, but I was like, I just felt really weird after the call, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, wait, this was a networking call. She didn't ask me even one question about myself. And so that's an example of where like my feeling was right, and I didn't realize why until later. And there is another situation where I was telling someone that I know about a win that I recently experienced, and she really didn't even care. She just moved on to the next subject and kept talking. And I felt really uneasy about it, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And then later when I was thinking about it, and the reason why it didn't come to me immediately is because I spent a lifetime of being around unsupportive people. That was normal to me. So it took me a second, but I was like, oh, she didn't even say anything encouraging or supportive about my win. So again, my intuition felt it in that moment, but it wasn't until later that I reflected on it that I was like, okay, that's why. So your question was, how do I describe energy? I can't. It's just the feeling that I have. And you get that from developing your intuition.
Yeah, based on both of those situations, or actually more specifically the latter one, can it be dangerous to have a high expectation of hoping that someone reciprocates the same amount of enthusiasm that you have, but never getting it, and then now assuming that because they don't reciprocate it, that now they're not worth as much as you thought they were?
I don't think it's bad to expect it because, for example, I know this person because we're in a female entrepreneur community, which is based on supporting each other. So, especially in this case, I don't think it was wrong to expect that from her. However, I had to recalibrate my expectations from her, and it also made me reevaluate. And this is not to say like I have to cut her off or I'm never going to talk to her again, but I have to recalibrate my expectations going forward with her. And I also need to determine how much time do I want to invest one-on-one with her, because my whole value system now is to be around loving and supportive people. And if she's not able to provide that for whatever reason, then maybe that's someone I'm not going to spend a lot of one-on-one time with at all. Maybe. Like I would be okay in a group or whatever, but if I can't count on her to support me, then I'm not sure that's someone I want to spend my time and energy on.
Is that tied to emotional investment? The more emotionally invested you are in someone, the more you value their time?
Yes, I think so.
How do you see emotional investment in terms of understanding why you want to be with them?
I think overall, I value people who I can be myself with because I feel emotionally safe. Because again, I spent a lot of my life being surrounded by unloving and unsupportive people. And a lot of time, what that translated into was I was criticized. Like if I were to be myself and express myself, then I would be criticized for something. So now I'm at a place where I want to be around loving and supportive people. And that doesn't mean like not calling me out if I'm doing something. I don't even want to say unethical. Like if
Unethical?
you know what I
Whoa.
mean? Like,
Whoa.
yeah,
This is going a
definitely
different
call me.
direction.
Yeah, definitely call me out if I'm doing something unethical. But even, like we all make mistakes. Like maybe I don't set a boundary or maybe I say something that's offensive. Like I definitely want to be around people who can call me out on that. But in terms of being myself and feeling emotionally safe, that's my number one value. Also being around loving and supportive people. And then everything else I think falls into place. I think it's situational though, because I think my expectation was higher with her because she's part of this female entrepreneur group. So I was expecting that level of support. But again, you just have to recalibrate and expect, meet people where they are.
How would you define love? Because it sounds like most of this is just revolving around love.
I've never been asked this before. I think love is just a mutual respect for another human being. Because you could love a friend, right? You can love a family member. There's romantic love. I think like fully accepting someone else for who they are as a human being.
Fully accepting them? Because sometimes you can't, well, in my mind, fully accepting someone is bad because then there may be flaws in them that they don't want to deal with right now, but eventually they do want to deal with it. But right now it's like, so is it full acceptance, or is it just acceptance with the things that tolerate's not the right word, but the acceptance of the qualities you find the best out of that person?
I think it's full acceptance because I guess I'm thinking about it in terms of someone loving me because I'm not perfect. So if someone was like, oh, I don't love you because you're not perfect, I think I would have an issue with that. Because, for instance, I love my mom. I don't agree with a lot of things she does, but I still have love for her. But it's because I accept all of her. Because I think we all have, and I'm trying to think of the right word to use because it's not really like bad qualities. Like, for instance, I have anxiety and I don't consider that a good quality, but I don't think that makes me unlovable. So I wouldn't not love someone else just because they have anxiety. I would still fully accept them for who they are.
Is that because you know what it's like to have anxiety? So therefore you can
So, yeah,
relate to
maybe
that
that's
part?
not a good example, though.
I think partially my thought process was not full acceptance, but unconditional acceptance is the way I was thinking about
Yeah,
it.
okay.
So would it be better like unconditional commitment? Like regardless of the imperfections, you still will, like for my family, if my dad needed me to get some groceries for him, like I will do it same day if I can. And like I wouldn't ask any questions, be like, oh, yeah, what's the grocery list? I'll go do it. So it's, or if my sister was like, hey, I'll be in the area for like a couple of days. You want to go somewhere? Like, heck yeah. Like I'll clear out my schedule. So it's maybe it's not maybe not commitment, but just
I was just gonna say, I'm on board with unconditional, but I think commitment is where you have to have the boundaries, though, because, for example, I haven't spoken to my mom in almost 3 years because it's not great for my mental health to speak to her. So, I don't know, but I still love her and accept her for who she is. I just have to draw that boundary on my interaction with her.
yeah, commitment's not the right word. Acceptance works, but not exactly
What's wrong with just unconditional acceptance? I like that.
because it doesn't. I don't know why it just doesn't feel right. I will accept people for who they are and everything, and how they react to the world, but I won't, like there's going to be like boundaries that I'm like I can't get over this part of you or get over this part of you, but I'll still be there if you need me to.
But isn't that unconditional?
Yeah, that's the unconditional, but it's not full accept. It's not like
Oh.
I can't. I guess it would be acceptance because I'd have to accept who they are in order to understand, in order to want to be there for them when they need it the most.
I think it's unconditional acceptance with boundaries. Because you can accept someone fully and unconditionally for who they are, but you can limit your interaction with them in a way that's healthier for you.
Is it interaction or boundaries as in I won't, that's not the way I live my life.
Like a value clash is what you're referring to.
Like if someone
Yeah, that's hard.
Like if someone goes to the bar every night or something, and I'm like, I can accept you for all the other stuff we do, but that part is like, I wouldn't do that because I don't think getting drunk or drinking alcohol is gonna help me with my problems.
Yeah, that one's hard. Also because I think it's very true, like you become who you surround yourself with. So if someone is in that habit, they're not really trying to learn and grow and fix their problems responsibly. So you don't want to go down that road with them. You could be supportive to them, but yeah, I think you would have to draw a boundary on how you engage with them.
Yeah. So love is just wanting to grow with someone else, despite their flaws.
Yeah, I like that definition.
There was I think it was either Mark Manson or Simon Sinek on Modern Wisdom. Not Manson, I think it was Sinek. They were talking about this, and I forgot word for word what it was about, but maybe it was Manson. I can't remember who it was, one of the two. And he was saying how relationships is a relationship, whether platonic, romantic, whatever it may be, is two people wanting to grow together. So maybe love is that way, but then again, I haven't had enough relationships with anyone to be able to have a much better definition. But for now, that's probably good enough.
Okay.
Which kind of ties into what one thing you said on your website, which is what I won't do is I'm not here to fix you because you're not broken. What I will do is guide you back to the glow that's already within you.
So my coaching program, it's called Shine from the Inside, and it's based on the concept. I'm glad that you just naturally brought that up because it's based on the concept of internal validation. So when you are happy and shining your own light, you're shining from the inside, but it's kind of like the concept of the sun. The sun is just there, like shining on its own, which is what you're doing when you're shining from the inside. But look at the exponential benefits that the sun has on everything it's shining upon. So it's the same concept of when you are shining your own light and receiving your validation from within, it heals you. But then the next layer is that the people who know you and are experiencing your light, it inspires them to shine their own light. And then going another layer, And this might be a little woo-woo for some people, but I believe that you're either contributing to raising the vibration of the universe, or you're contributing to all the fear and anger and all of that stuff that's going on right now. So when you're shining your own light, you're healing yourself, you're inspiring others to shine their light, and you're contributing to raising the vibration of the entire universe. So it's this exponential effect.
Which part of this, like, what perspective are you looking at the sun from? Are you like inside the sun looking out? Because that would probably mean you're like emotionally completely unstable and like full of all this like internal reactions. Like, I think the sun is like a million or 2 million nuclear bombs going all at once. Like, I don't know if that's great for.
Yeah, maybe the sun is extreme, but because it's basically a huge ball of gas, so we don't want to totally compare ourselves to the sun. But it's the whole effect of you shining has an effect on everyone you're shining upon. It's not as deep as the sun is made
Oh, I know,
of
but I
a
want it to be
huge
that
ball of
deep.
fire and gas.
Well, what if it's you're on Earth looking at the sun, and that there are times when you're on the dark side of the Earth where the sun isn't shining, but the moon reflecting the sunshine isn't as bright, but it still exists.
True. So that's a good point, because I used to live in Chicago and it was cloudy and dark like a lot of the time. And when I moved to Hawaii, it's sunny most of the time. Like, I actually get angry on a day that it's not sunny because it's sunny that often here. But I cannot tell you the effects that has on my mental health. I am literally happier here because of the sun shining. So that's the effect that I'm talking about. And also, like, the vegetation here, like, plants grow like crazy. The grass is always green. And people talk about like how much they love sunny days. And I mean, it just brightens everyone's day and has all of these effects on humans, the earth. And there are downsides. It causes skin cancer, obviously, but for the most part, there are tons of benefits. There's people get solar power from the sun and it saves them money on electricity. It saves natural resources. There's all these exponential benefits.
Is it possible to take that sunshine for granted?
Like your sunshine, or like the real sun?
In both cases, it's that it's usually through the dark times that make that sun look a lot brighter and a lot more valuable.
True, but even here, because again, like if it's cloudy all day, I actually get annoyed. Like, God, where's the sun? And it's interesting because you would think in a place where it's sunny most of the time that we would take it for granted. But I cannot tell you how many times I've walked outside and been like, man, it is such a nice day today. Or I've talked to other people and they're like, man, they're like, oh, this is such a nice day. What a lovely day. And so we still comment on what a great day it is. So you can take it for granted, but I think because we're in it all the time, we actually have that much more appreciation and gratitude for it.
Then, weird tangent on internal sunshine. The paranoia of not having the sunshine anymore, where people now create an artificial sunshine within them that emulates it, but not necessarily reflects the real sunshine when they're not in a place because I forgot what the actual psychological term for it is, but that people normalize to their environment, that whatever you're in is the world that you live in, and that like your reflection of whatever that is, whether it's like a corporate environment or like a dangerous neighborhood or something. So what about when, in order to preserve the sunshine, that they create an artificial light to shine in that dark time, but it doesn't give you vitamin D, it gives you ultraviolet rays that, now your mind's like, ah.
So are you speaking to so someone who lives in a dangerous neighborhood, for instance, they may have some kind of internal belief that somehow causes them to live there. Is that what you're saying?
More of, some people can't control the circumstances they're currently in, whether it's like they have to be in a job because they need to make money, or they have to be in a certain area because they don't have the resources to be able to leave that area. So more of like when you, like for you were in Chicago, now you're in Hawaii, but you were able to, like, probably took a while to get from Chicago to the time to have enough resources to get to Hawaii, and now you're in a much better place. But what about when you're in that when you're not able to leave yet, but you have to be there because you still need to build up everything to leave?
So that's a great question. I'm going to speak on two different things. One, because I did move from Chicago to here, and also I recently left corporate America. So I'll speak on both of those things. So when I moved from Chicago to Hawaii, I had a lot of limiting beliefs around like, oh, I can't move. And one of my biggest limiting beliefs was I can't afford it because first of all, it costs money to move, especially like I just bought a red convertible, which was like my dream car that I had wanted since I was a little girl. So it's like I have to ship my car, blah, blah, blah. So I had all these limiting beliefs, and my primary limiting belief about moving from Chicago to Hawaii was I don't have enough money. But when I finally, because after my dad died, because he was only 63. And so that was my reminder, life is too short to not do what you want to do. So I decided I want to move to Hawaii. And in that decision, I was like, I'm going to figure out how to make enough money to move there. And I'm not saying, I'm just saying my story. I know everyone's in a different situation and this path isn't going to be the same for everyone, but I asked for a raise at work and I got a raise. And then I also ended up getting a really big bonus that year. My dad had passed away. He didn't have a will. All his stuff had to go through probate. And I didn't think first of all, he didn't have money. I had to sell his house. He had a lien on the house. So the only profit from the house was $40,000, but he had $40,000 credit card debt. So it took like a year and a half to go through probate. This entire time, I didn't think I was getting any money. But when finally the day came to settle everything and his estate lawyer we sold the house. His estate lawyer called the bank, like, here's the check. I'm going to pay off this credit card debt. For whatever reason that's unknown to me today, the bank was like, no, it's good. We don't need the money. So I actually ended up getting $40,000 from my dad's estate, which I was not expecting at all. What else happened? I also received money from another unexpected source, but my point is, and again, this may be woo-woo, but I believe in it now. Like, you get what you focus on. So I was focused on getting to Hawaii, and I was focused on making the money that I needed to get there. And it came from some expected places because I was like, okay, I have a job, I can ask for a raise. And I did. And then I got an unexpected large bonus. I got that unexpected money from my dad. I feel like there was like another unexpected source. But my point is, I was focused on this is what I need to get to Hawaii, and I'm going to do it. Like, there was no other option in my mind. I'm going to find a way to make the money to move to Hawaii, no matter what it takes. And it's all in the mindset shift. Similarly to, I recently left corporate America. And again, my mindset was, it's crazy to leave a stable corporate job where you make a lot of money and have benefits and all these things. But that's just programming that society tells us. And I'm way happier on my own with my own business. I'm not making as much money as I was in corporate yet, but I firmly believe that I will because that is what I'm focused on. So I know your circumstances can feel constrictive and restraining, but you have to focus on the way out and it will come. And I know it's not that straightforward because there are actions that you have to take. You can't just be, if you're like living in a bad neighborhood, you can't just be sitting in your house hoping things will change. You actually have to make some momentum to make it change. But there are so many people with success stories about like, hey, I was at this really low point and I made it out. And that's how I a lot of times change my mindset. Because again, I grew up with the conditioning of lack, scarcity, don't get out of your comfort zone. But look at all of the things I've done because I have seen with my own eyes, other people are doing this. So it's available for me too. So, and that's why I like to have conversations like this because hopefully it inspires someone who may feel stuck in their circumstances. And in a way you might be, but there's always a way out.
Does that tie into the fear, like there's partially the fear of getting hurt, but also it takes small little incremental steps to get to where you want to go.
Do you mean like it could be holding someone back because they're scared of getting hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because even in my change from leaving corporate America, I noticed recently that I was grieving older versions of myself. And I was like, that's interesting because I'm more courageous. I trust myself more. I respect myself more. I'm actually in a better place. I'm in the best place that I have been in my life so far. So why would I grieve an older version of myself? And it's because older versions of me made excuses so I wouldn't take action because I had all the excuses and limiting beliefs. For instance, I didn't quit corporate America for a long time because I had all these excuses and limiting beliefs as to why I shouldn't or why I couldn't. And those were holding me back. But when you cross that threshold of now I have the courage to do XYZ, you don't have those limiting beliefs and fears to hide behind. So now it's terrifying for me because I have to push myself. I have to challenge myself and I don't have anything to hide behind. So I think our brain can self-sabotage ourselves from success. And like, that's just one example of how it plays out. But yeah, I do think people can self-sabotage with their own mind tricks.
Yeah. There was one thing on another thing on your website, self-abandons by saying, so the first part of this was that or you were talking about something else. And then are you someone who self-abandons by saying yes when you really want to say no? So this is more of you want to say no, but you really should be saying yes.
That shows up a lot in people pleasing because you're more concerned about the other person, what they think of you than what you think of yourself. And I'll give you an example. Like, I do not claim to be a master at boundaries. I have come a long way and I'm way better than I used to be because I used to have zero boundaries. But I just had an interesting experience a few weeks ago. I went to a fashion show with my friend and we had purchased our tickets ahead of time, which is what I think you were supposed to do. I don't think they were selling tickets at the door. But when we were waiting in line to get in, to check in, I ran into this guy that I know and he didn't have a ticket. And he immediately leached onto me and was like, well, I'm going to tag along with you guys and see if I can get in. And it was so and I don't know this guy very well. I know his name. I kind of know what he does for work and that's it. I don't know him. He's not a friend of mine, but he like leached onto me. And in the moment, it was just so startling and I was so unprepared that I was just like, okay. Long story short, he didn't get in because he didn't have a ticket. But I was reflecting on it later because I was like, why did I not have a boundary with him? And it's because I didn't want to hurt his feelings by telling him, hey, it's not my problem. But ultimately, it wasn't my problem. So I could have just said like, hey, I'm sorry you didn't get your ticket ahead of time, but there's nothing I can do to help you. But in that moment, because I was so caught off guard, I was more concerned about hurting his feelings than my comfort because it was so uncomfortable for him to like leech onto me during that time that we were waiting in line to check in. So instead of speaking up, I let my discomfort be more important, or I let his comfort be more important than my discomfort.
Is that just some things I've heard on the internet, because the internet is obviously very trustworthy, that the idea that women will prioritize harmony rather than being honest about things so that they don't hurt other people's feelings?
That's exactly what it is. But you're abandoning yourself because then you feel uncomfortable. And sometimes resentment can start to build up. Like if it's something that's continually happening, especially with the same person, then resentment builds up. But again, you don't want to say anything because you don't want to rock the boat. But you're the one who's uncomfortable. So why not say something?
At what point do people, maybe women specifically or just people in general, at what point do they say, I want to prioritize my comfort over your feelings in a non-manipulative way?
At what point did they say that? Was that the question?
Does it have to be, do they have to go through something traumatic, or is it just like whenever they realize that their life means a lot more than trying to make sure everyone else is happy, or people pleasing?
I mean, hopefully they don't go through something. I had to go through something traumatic for me to get to that point. hopefully most people don't. I think you have to at least decide that you want to change, because I think a lot of people, women especially, they know that they don't feel good abandoning themselves, but they don't really see another way out. So they keep doing it. But like with anything, I think you just kind of reach your point where you can't take it anymore. So everyone's limit is different. So hopefully you don't have to go through anything traumatic. And that's why I like to teach it, or excuse me, I like to teach boundaries as part of my coaching program, because it's so important. It's such an amazing way to build confidence and self-respect. And someone who's never set boundaries or hasn't been good at setting boundaries, they don't really understand that until they do it. And plus, I don't want someone to get to the point where they're going through something traumatic because they never had boundaries or weren't good at setting them.
Does this like revolve around like happiness, of having internal happiness?
It does, because when you respect yourself and can protect yourself from things that, for example, like in the situation that I described, it caused me discomfort. So obviously I'm not happy, right? But so you're protecting yourself from discomfort. You're protecting yourself from unhealthy dynamics. You're building confidence by having that respect in yourself. So yes, I firmly believe that develops your internal happiness, because you think it's going to come from this other person loving or respecting you, but really that comes from within.
Yeah. So how would you define happiness?
I define happiness as being full and fulfilled within yourself.
In what sense?
Fulfilled with your own love.
Okay.
Which goes back, because I don't think we ever fully defined love, did we? Oh no, you want to...
We kind of did, kind of not.
The definition we fell upon depended on someone else, because didn't we say like it's someone you want to love and grow with?
Yeah, that was relationship love.
But you could actually... That actually works for yourself though, because if you love yourself, like for instance, I love myself now, so I want to keep growing and evolving and becoming a better person. So I think that definition works for yourself as well.
There's one, Dave, he's been on, he's had 2 episodes. One of my favorite things he's ever said was, be proud of yourself despite your setbacks. And it always goes into my mind sometimes. He's also the same guy who's like, complacency kills. And I was like, yeah, that's also true. Do you have a separation between being prideful and being proud?
Yes, because I think, and this is just my interpretation, I think being prideful is based on that external validation. Because some people, like for instance, you see it all the time on LinkedIn. People are like bragging about their accomplishments. And don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with achieving. But it's like, I feel like some people are only achieving so that they can brag about it and get that validation from someone else. Like, oh, congratulations, you're so great, blah, blah, blah. Whereas when you're proud, you're just happy for yourself for the learning and growing opportunity.
If I remember correctly, their algorithm...
They encourage it.
their algorithm optimizes for those kind of posts. I'm like, why? That doesn't make any sense. There was like one point that you had on your website, which is, are you someone who feels unsafe expressing your true self around people close to yourself or close to her? But screw the women part. We're just talking about people in general.
Yeah.
Again, social media. Obviously, this is 100% true. Some people will be emotionally vulnerable to friends, but not to significant others or their partners.
I think the closer you are to someone, the scarier it is to be vulnerable, because especially in a romantic relationship, because I think some relationships we take for granted, because we were talking earlier about love. You can love a friend, you can love a family member. And I think friends and family are way more accepting of your flaws. Like, for instance, if you mess up, how many of your friends are just going to be like, oh, I don't want to be friends with you anymore? Or like, how many family members would just write you off if you made a mistake? Whereas I feel, yeah, exactly. So I feel like in romantic relationships, there's a lot more on the line, because it's like, okay, if you screw up, like maybe there's someone out there who wouldn't screw up. Like there's so much more at risk. So if you are vulnerable, that could put you at risk for that person leaving you. So I think it's a lot scarier in a romantic relationship.
Okay. Is that because comparison is a thief of joy? because it's always like, am I going to be compared to someone who's better than me?
I probably, but the thing is, the person they're comparing, if they have a person in particular, they don't know that person intimately either. So who's to say that person doesn't have the same problem, if not other problems, if not more problems? And I think that's a problem in relationships is when we're kids, we're sold this fantasy of what a relationship is because like we see Disney movies and all these rom-coms, and so we have an idea of what love should quote unquote look like, and it doesn't look like that at all. And so I think a lot of people, and I'll myself included, when you have an argument or something goes wrong or you see a flaw, you just start to question like, is this okay? Like, do I tolerate this? Is this something to work on? Or is there someone else who's better than me? I think that's a common thought process to go through.
This next question, if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. When your boyfriend at the time left you for, I don't know if it was for the other girl or not, did you have that comparison problem?
Oh, for sure. Because it's like, what does she have that I don't? Also, I remember a big hang up I had about that was she was older than me. And I was like so appalled by that at the time. Because I'm like, why wouldn't he want someone younger? And she was older than him even. So I was like, why would he want someone older and not younger? But at that time, I was looking through it from the lens of being superficial, right? Because I was just basically comparing like young versus old. Because in hindsight, I was actually very emotionally immature. She was probably more emotionally mature. Like she probably actually was better, quote unquote, or better fit for him than me. So yeah, we were just at different parts in our journey, really. But yeah, that was huge. And back then, I wasn't big on social media. I think I tried to look her up, but there wasn't much there, thankfully. But I probably could have got obsessive about it because I tend to be an obsessive person. I could see if it were like now and I was still in that mindset, I might be stalking her on Instagram or something and comparing myself to her. But I didn't do it just because I wasn't really on social media and I don't think she was either.
Does that tie into law of attraction and you didn't believe that you deserve to be loved?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So, and that's just it. Like, instead of looking at like how awesome I was and how much better I could get, I was focused on her and was like, well, maybe I can do what she's doing or dress how she's dressing. But that just would have been fake, right? Because that's not who I am. I'm just trying to be a version of her.
Then how do you balance between working on yourself and being a better person than you are today and wanting to seek out someone romantically to be with for the rest of your life and not wanting to be everything that they want you to be, but also not obsessed with that small little, it's like, oh, well, I probably don't fit with them, or this is not going to work out?
I think the answer is the same, and I'm going to explain why. Because when I had my rock bottom moment 5 years ago, I was like, okay, I need help. And traditional therapy had not worked for me. So I was like, I'm going to invest in myself and hire a coach. And the only coach that I knew of, I was connected to him on Instagram because we had met in person at a healing intensive. He was a men's dating coach, but the content that he put out, like it wasn't like pickup artist bullshit or anything like that. He actually teaches men to be better versions of themselves. And that in turn attracts the kind of people that they want to date. So that's exactly why I actually coached with him for many years, because it's like, I just want to be a better version of myself. And then that attracts the kind of people that you actually want to date. And when you're in that mindset, you're not even trying, because the word that like came to my head when you were describing that scenario is like auditioning, because I feel like I used to look at dating as like auditioning, like I want to be who they want or I want to win, quote unquote. But when you're in that energy of like, this is who I am, I'm growing and improving, I want to learn about you, and if you're a right match, we can enhance each other's lives and grow and improve together. You're not trying to like win them over. And if they aren't a good match, then you accept that and move on. So it's just a totally different mindset, I think.
There's one thing I've noticed a lot about like really it could be high quality women or just women that are naturally attractive is that when they understand themselves, is it because of the actual growth that helps with the attraction, or is it also the confidence that they gain from being more in tune with who they are?
I feel like those are the same thing, though. You think they're different?
Well, I was wondering if you think that they're different, but if they're the same.
No, I think they're the same. Yeah. And I think the most beautiful women, like you see it from the outside, but it's actually coming from the inside because they're just so confident. They know their worth. Like they don't tolerate shit.
So is it just like a process of being less self-aware? And not self-awareness as in I'm not keeping myself in check, but self-awareness as I'm not worried about what other people are going to see in me that I don't already know. I don't understand about myself.
Absolutely. Because the key is to care more about how you think about you than what anyone else does. So that way, when people come along, they either agree with the standard that you've set for yourself or they don't. And if they don't agree, then it's like, okay, we're just not compatible as human beings, whether that's a friendship or a romantic relationship or any other kind of relationship.
Do you have any questions for me? Because I'm almost out of stuff to say.
Oh, really?
Do you know the idea of engineered obsolescence?
No.
There's a lot of manufacturers who will create things with the intention of them failing within a certain amount of time. Unless you buy like the best of the best or you put in a lot of money. For example, like Apple has a whole lineup of iPads, but if you get like the base iPad or you get like one up but above it, it'll probably last you maybe 2-3 years before you have to get a new one. Whereas if you get like the more expensive one, then it'll last maybe 5-6 years. And it's just like, it's the idea that companies will create things with the intention of them failing because they're trying to make a profit for a future. They're making a smaller loss now for a more return customer. So, would you believe that, or do you believe that a lot of people who don't have the confidence, who don't have the self-respect, who don't have the self-awareness, if they never pursue the growth part of it, that they're basically just doing self-induced obsolescence?
Oh, that's deep. Let me think for a second. I mean, I think so. But so there's self-induced growth, but also sometimes life gives you lessons that you don't expect. Because I think everybody has some level of growth throughout their life because life will hand you lessons whether you want them or not. But in terms of what you can control, yes, I do think that is true.
I didn't know where I was going to go with that. I was just like, hey, here's a topic.
But I firmly believe that companies do that because I remember a long time ago I was talking to someone, they used to work for Verizon. And back when cell phones first came out, or like in the earlier stages of cell phones as they are now, Verizon had invented a waterproof phone. And I know phones say they're waterproof now, but I don't think they really are. But anyway, so these phones lasted forever. And so people weren't buying new phones. So they discontinued that phone and just stuck with their regular phone so that people would have to replace them every so many years. So I do know that companies do that. I like how you related that to people, though.
There's also another idea which I've seen a lot of people who focus on getting everything done short term, but never really consider the long term progress of it. That they'll have, let's say, 10 things to do, and they're overwhelmed with it because there's a lot of stuff to do on top of all their personal stuff they have to get done. But they never put any future safeguards in place, so they just want to get the solution solved, but not necessarily solved with it being a problem that's going to come up like 20 or not 20 years, but like 10 months from now or something like that. So like self-induced obsolescence from like a future standpoint.
That's so interesting because that just reminded me of one of the reasons why I was so disgruntled with corporate America, because I feel like I'm a forward-thinking person. So when I would come up with solutions, I was thinking about like a long-term solution. And I remember I would get criticized a lot, and it's almost like they didn't even want a solution. They just wanted a Band-Aid fix and move on. And it's the same kind of thinking. And I would get so frustrated with that.
It's like shooting yourself in the foot and then blaming someone else for it.
Yeah,
Or no, there was
there's people who do stuff like that too.
yeah, there was one story. It's from the book Becoming Steve Jobs. I've read that like 4 times. It's a great book. There was one story. I think it was Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs was at Apple started Apple until like 1984 or something, and then he got kicked out, and then Apple went through a series of different CEOs until he came back in the late 1990s. And one of the CEOs, I can't remember who it was talking and so Steve Jobs recollecting this from a third person perspective. There was maybe it's a gala or like a meeting or something, and the CEO was talking with a couple other people, and he was talking about how his job as a CEO is that there's a boat with a hole in it, and he's trying to get everyone to row in the same direction. And so they keep talking and talking, and the CEO leaves, and then one of the guys in the group asks, "Well, what about the hole?" So it's like a kind of like similar ideas. Like there's like, hey, we need to go in this direction. What about the thing that's going to make us all sink? And I guess
Okay, that
self-interest.
explains a lot about corporate America, though. But yeah, but why not listen to the guy who's asking about the hole?
There was this one cartoon that was like there's the same idea. There's a boat with a bunch of people on it, and there's a hole in it, and there's one person. Hey, look, there's a hole. And then as it gets further out to the edge of the boat, it goes from, oh, there's a hole. Hey, do we know anyone to fix it? Why are we talking about that hole? Hey, look, there's a lighthouse in the distance. And then like these people are like, let's not worry about that. Let's worry about the happiness and the fact that we're on a boat. So it's kind of in a way you can only. I mean, also from the perspective of a CEO, there's also shareholders. There's also the other people who are looking from the shore who don't see the hole in the boat, and they're like, "Hey, you guys have to be going that way. Stop staying where you are." So it's, I guess, understanding perspective that there's the self-induced obsolescence is also just addressing what the problem is and understanding that the problem may not be the one that you're seeing, but the one that everyone else understands.
That's so deep.
Well, it would be very deep if you don't fix that hole.
Yeah. But I'm just like, wow, that's like a good life analogy. That's a good corporate America analogy.
I've always I can hear the corporate America tone from like a mile away. The second I hear it, I snap out of it. I'm like, I'm not listening to whatever you're saying. I don't care. There's one marketing event close to it was last year, end of last year, and like a lot of big companies, like you paid $600 to get in or something like that, and you had like people from Amazon, from or AWS. You had people from a bunch of different places, and the entire thing, like I was listening for maybe the first or second person who was talking, but the entire thing was just this corporate monotone enthusiasm. And I was like, I just started doing stuff on my iPad. I was like, I'm just passively listening. There's one person who was talking, and he was like he was a VP of Adobe or something, or not the VP, but one of them. And like he was more honest, but he was still putting on a filter. And I was like, I can't stand that tonality. Like there's nothing good that ever comes from it, or nothing worth listening to.
No, agree. Especially when they start using all the buzzwords, because it's like, do you even know what you're saying at this point?
And there's also the other thing, which is like HR is like the only department that lies the most just because they're trying to avoid a lawsuit. And I'm like, that's perfect. I know so many good people who'd be perfect for HR because they they don't, there's no other part in their life that they can't do, which is lie without saying anything.
Yeah, I had a bad experience with HR at my last company, so I don't have anything positive to say, so I won't say it.
What was that about?
Well, basically, I was in a situation where I felt like my manager was trying to set me up to fail and basically force me to quit. So I went to HR about it, and they basically told me I was gaslit, basically. They were like, you're being too sensitive. I had tried to have conversations with my manager, and she refused to talk to me about it. And I mentioned that to HR. They told me that I needed to take career coaching and learn how to communicate. And so after that conversation, I'm like, okay, I see what's going on here.
That's why I would never go into HR or go into corporate America if I don't have to.
Wait, what is your job though? I thought you did have a corporate job.
No, mostly just podcasting. Worked at a piano company,
Oh, that was it. That's what you told me.
and
Yeah.
it's a small business, 3 locations. It's not at all. I mean, there is the bureaucracy in it, but it's mostly just like small business bureaucracy of the same idea.
Oh, that you would, yeah, you would hate corporate America
Yeah, no,
then.
I wouldn't.
It's like,
I would like the second if they ever hired me for whatever reason, they would have like 3 lawsuits before I get my first paycheck. I know that guaranteed. I'm a walking HR violation. It doesn't matter what happens, someone's going to be mad within the first week. So I have one last thing, only because my notes are completely exhausted.
oh, really? Because you had a lot of notes.
Yeah, that was all my notes. You filled in all the gaps. Um, there's one concept in Japanese philosophy, which is mono no aware, which is translated into the pathos of all things, or bittersweet awareness of the impermanence of all things. The aesthetic and the philosophical concept finds expression in cherry blossoms, which bloom brilliantly but briefly, becoming a symbol of life's transient beauty. I was wondering how your surfing and your love for surfing translate to, if there's like any concepts of impermanence through surfing.
Yes. And I can't remember if I told you this before, because I remember we talked about surfing. There's a concept, I think it's called the surfer's theory. I don't know. But basically, in surfing, you spend a very small amount of time actually surfing because you have to wait for the waves to come, and then you actually catch a wave and ride the wave, and then you have to paddle back out. I used to have a Garmin with a surf function, and for every hour I was in the water, I would probably spend maybe 10 to 12 minutes actually surfing. And when you're but it's like, and so people make fun of surfers because there's a lot of work for very little reward. But being on the wave is so, like, it's just this feeling that you can't experience anywhere else. And it's such a good feeling that we think it's worth it to put in all this work and effort for very little reward, because that reward, the feeling, is worth more than the time spent. But anyway, the surfer's theory is about when a surfer is on a wave, you know the wave is going to end, but you're never even, when you're on the wave, you're not even thinking about that. You're just in the moment, enjoying the moment. And again, it's like such an amazing feeling being on the wave. So you're just like embracing the feeling and enjoying it for as long as you can. And then when it ends, yeah, it kind of sucks, but you know that there's always another wave to catch. So I think that's a really good analogy for life. And it also translates to the cherry blossoms only being temporary, because, life is a journey and you have these ebbs and flows, and you have to enjoy the good moments while they last. Because I used to be the kind of person, if something was going well, I couldn't even enjoy it, because it's like I would be waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, oh, something's going to come along and screw this up. And to be honest, something probably will happen and, mess up the good feeling. But that doesn't mean I can't enjoy it while it lasts. And even in the quote unquote bad times, like paddling back out or waiting, there's still things to be learned in those moments. So I've also learned to enjoy the journey when I may not be feeling happy, or it may seem boring, or like nothing's happening. So there's so many lessons to be learned from surfing that translate to life. But that's one of my favorite ones that I think translates the best.
I mean, it's going back to what you were talking about earlier about focusing. You should focus on what you're doing, and also adding in like anticipation. Anticipation will build up to whatever that major focus point is. Like if you're focusing on that end of the wave, or if you're anticipating the end of the wave, then you're not focusing on the actual wave itself.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I used to do that as well. Like something good may be happening, and even if I'm not waiting for the next shoe to drop, I'm still like focusing on something in the future or thinking about something in the past. And it's like, why not just enjoy this moment for what it is? And also mindfulness is huge in that, which I used to suck at, but surfing has helped me a lot with mindfulness because again, even with waiting for the waves to come, there's so many opportunities in that moment. Like I've learned a lot about ocean awareness because remember earlier I was saying to you, because you were asking me like, how do you describe someone else's energy? And like I can't because it's just a feeling. And I've had people ask me how to read waves or how do I know a set is coming or how did I know to catch that wave and not another wave? I cannot describe that to someone because it's so intuitive now. And I've learned that from the in between times in surfing. I just pay attention to the ocean and it's like all intuitive now. So I've learned so much from the ocean.
Your intuition is more of not something that can be seen in the future, but rather something that you can only see in the present. It's like only based on these minor little things that all accumulate to one major thing. But it could be 100 different things that say yes or 100 different things that say no, but you can't really describe that until it actually happens.
Yeah, that's a good point because I mostly use my intuition for the present moment. You can ask questions about the future. I have an issue with that. I'm not saying I never do that, but there's several issues, especially with, for example, timing questions, because a lot of people may be like, when is X going to happen? And they want a date on the calendar. But divine timing is not a date on a calendar. Like sometimes for something to happen, all these other things have to line up and we all have free will. So say like for this podcast to happen, say 3 other things have to happen and that we have no control over. So I use it for present moment. Some people try to use it to predict the future. I think there's so many variables with that. And even if I do ask a question about the future and get a response, I try not to be too attached to it because I know everyone has free will. Divine timing is not a date on a calendar. So there's so many variables with the future predicting that come into play. But I mainly use it for the present moment.
Okay. I don't really have anything else. I have 2 last questions I asked everyone, unless there was something you wanted to talk about or any questions that you had.
Not at the moment.
So first question, or 2 questions, depending on which one you want to go with first. Who do you want to be 10 years from now? And what would you have told yourself, I guess in maybe your case, 10 to 20 years ago, depending on which one's more emotionally charged?
Wait, what was the second question?
What would you have told yourself 10 years ago or 20 years ago, depending on which one feels worse to say?
I'll answer that one first. I honestly would have told myself that I deserve to be loved, and I would have told myself to hire a coach then because I had to wait until I hit a rock bottom moment to actually hire a coach. And that's what changed my life for the better. But I wish I wouldn't have got to that moment. So it would have been like a foreshadowing or, in the movies when like someone gets a sign to
Yeah,
warn them.
foreshadowing, yeah.
I would have done that to my past self. So I didn't have to go through what I had to go through. And then where do I see myself in 10 years?
Yeah.
Was that the other one?
Yeah.
I would love to be retired and just travel the world. I have like a whole bucket list of places that I want to visit. So I just want to travel.
Okay. One other question, again, if you don't want to answer it, it's fine. What would you want to tell to your father? Or what would you want to say to your father?
So my dad, because I'm intuitive, I actually have a constant connection with my dad and we're best friends now. And I write him letters every single day. And usually it's to thank him because I do feel like he's my protector and he's always with me and protecting me. So I usually just thank him for being with me or giving me signs or whatever. But I've also told him, I understand why he was the way he was when he was on Earth. Because the thing about my dad, he was like really emotionally available. I think he was depressed. He was an alcoholic. But in the spirit world, like I see his soul, which is the person who he was. outside of all those like human baggage, basically. So it just helps me, and it helps me have compassion for other people on earth, because I think we all have very pure souls and we're just bogged down by human baggage, basically. So I'm super appreciative for all the lessons that he's taught me while he was here on earth and on the spirit world as well. And that's another benefit of being connected with your intuition, because you're not just connected with yourself. You can connect with your relatives or friends who have passed. And I think that's so important, because that helped me. Not that I didn't have to grieve his death, but I think a lot of people, they view death as an ending. Like, I never have communication with this person. I never have contact with this person again. But the truth is, you actually do. It's just a very different relationship. Because I talk to my dad every single day and he's with me all of the time. It's just a very different relationship than what we had on Earth. And actually, in our case, it's actually a lot closer than what we had on Earth, because we were not close when he was alive and we're a lot closer now. But that's and that's another reason why I teach intuition in my coaching program, because not only do you connect with yourself, like there's all these other, and again, this might be too woo-woo for someone. At the very least, you can connect to yourself. But if you want to connect to your relatives or whoever's on the other side, that's easily available for anyone.
Yeah. Does that have to do with you won't really truly appreciate a moment until it becomes a memory?
Yeah, I think a lot of us fall into that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I don't
Don't
know.
you? Like, there's just now, I don't know. I'm at an age where it's just, there's so much going on in life that I think we do take basic moments for granted. And there's a lot to look back on where it's like, oh, I wish I would have appreciated that more. But while you're living it, you don't think much of it.
That's true. It's mostly just gratitude, just being grateful for any moment. I hope I don't have to learn it the hard way.
Like, because I have a gratitude journal and I try to write about like the quirky things that happen in a day, because it's like something like that may not ever happen again.
Impermanence.
Yeah.
That's all I've got. I would shake your hand, but can't really punch my computer. Otherwise, that would be kind of weird. But no,
Well,
this
in
has been
Hawaii, we
great.
do like the shaka.
Oh,
So we
sweet.
can like, yeah.
It's fine with me. Cool. No, that was great. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or that's about it?
I think that's it. Or do you have like any good, because it sounds like you've read a lot of books. Do you have any good book recommendations?
I've got a stack of books that I want to read, but I haven't read yet. Of the, let's see, what kind of book are you looking for? Something on like emotional level,
Nonfiction.
nonfiction. Oh,
Yeah.
David McCullough has a lot of good stuff. John Adams is a really good book, but it's a big one. 1776, revolutionary stuff. Nonfiction. Like Oliver Twist is a good one. That's fiction. Tom Clancy's series, again, fiction, but it's like realistic fiction. But to like say one nonfiction that's really, really good. I mean, Becoming Steve Jobs is nonfiction, and it was written by someone who knew Steve Jobs pretty well. I haven't read the I think Isaac Walterson version of it, but Becoming Steve Jobs, I've read that like 4 times. So
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, that one's good.
I'll write that one down.
I put like so much stuff on my website that's just like books and jujitsu and all the research I do, and of the ones
Well, I
that
can look on your website if you have them listed there.
here we go. Obviously there's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Have you read, I think I always get the title wrong, The Parallel Universes of Self?
It sounds familiar. I don't think I've read it.
It's super deep, so it's hard to explain in a brief way. But basically, because you've heard of the act as if theory. So it's basically taking that to another level, saying that there's already, like for instance, I said in 10 years, I want to be retired and traveling the world. There's already a version of me on another timeline living that life. All I have to do is step into that energy and then I merge over into that timeline. So it's instead of acting as if you are that person and then you merge into that timeline. It's wild. It's so deep.
It sounds like the placebo effect, because you think it will be, therefore it will become.
But you're not even thinking will be. You're thinking this is who I am.
I mean, that sounds, yeah.
I can only read like 10 or 15 pages at a time, and then I have to marinate in it because it's like, whoa, that was a lot.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the books I've got. Mostly just fiction, but like fiction with philosophy. Um, 2001: A Space Odyssey is a good one. Um, it's a short book. 1984 is obviously one of the best. Um, do you like thicker books, like packed with like when you lift the book, it's like this is a heavy book.
I do, but then it takes me forever to read them. Like the Parallel Universes of Self is thick, and it's taking me months to get through it because I don't have a lot of time for reading. How often do you read?
I haven't read like these are all books I've read a long time ago. I don't read very often because more listen to podcasts now instead of reading stuff. But I just ordered like 4 or 5 books, including yours, and I'm like I probably should read something. I've got John Maxwell's 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication, Extreme Ownership, The Value of Others, Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence, which that is like super packed with data.
Oh, really?
There's
Here, let me make a note of that one.
that's it's like the one of the fundamental parts of or like the basis of emotional intelligence. Like this guy just goes through all this science behind it. Um, there's there's so the art of this steam colors. There's Struggle Well, which is so you know how there's post traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
So the research behind this one is of post traumatic growth.
Ooh.
I know. I was like, wow, that's a great topic.
I'm going to write that one down too.
Yeah, Josh Goldberg. I hope I'm going to get next month. He's local to this area, or the Boulder Crest Foundation, which is a foundation that supports veterans who are going through PTSD, but trying to switch it because traditional therapy doesn't work. So instead of PTSD, it's PTG, post traumatic growth, and there's like a bunch of research that they've done that have on their website, which is really nice. I don't know how to say his name. Milhai Csikszentmihalyi. I screw up his name. Russian guy. Entire thing is over flow state, which is like how do you get into the flow state of getting to work, and like it could be like you have to clear out your table. Stephen Cutler is there's the Flow State Collective. Stephen Cutler and then Reendorse, they both have their own books and everything. So again, a lot of books that I want to read, I haven't read yet. One of my favorite books when it comes to like philosophy and understanding how some people work is a fictional one, Atlas Shrugged.
I think I've heard of that. Let me write that
That
down.
one that's mostly storytelling, but also you can see a lot of realistic. It's mostly like it could have been a textbook, but it turned into a story, so it's a lot nicer.
Oh, that's good. Now I have a whole reading list.
Yeah, I do that too, and then I get all the books, and I'm like, oh, I'll read that later.
I know. I have like I'm like you. I have a whole stack over here that it's like, it's going to take a while.
But that's about all the books that I've got that I could possibly explain.
Oh, actually, I do have a question because you mentioned like another guest say what did he say? It was a long time ago.
Be proud of yourself despite your setbacks.
Yes. So has anyone else like dropped any other gems of advice or quotes?
Quotes that I can remember. I think about that often enough that now it's ingrained in my memory. There's a lot of funny stuff that like I remember them, but it's not like I can't. You have to be like in the moment of it. I can't think of any right now. There's a lot of stuff that people say. There was Rod Harris that was back. That was one of the first 2 camera setups that I did. People come in your life for a reason or for a season. The way he was saying it was people come into your life for a season long term or for a reason short term. I thought he meant people come into your life for a season short term or for a reason long term. So there was that weird disconnect. I don't think it really matters, but that was an early one. Stephen Marlowe had a lot of good insights. We talked about horseback riding, and he's a knucklehead. And then Emily Lefebvre, she's kind of like you, but she's like she's a gun nut. She'll like beat you up and make sure that you know exactly what you're doing and not like give you any slack about stuff. So did 2 episodes plus a vlog with her. Not recommend that. And there's, I think mostly I get caught up in the stories. Joe Rudd, he got shot in the face at point blank. So that
I
was
watched that one.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's
'Cause I think I watched 2 episodes of yours, and that was definitely one of them, yeah.
yeah. And then Dave's first episode, he talked about the Holocaust and how, and a recollection of a story that his teacher went to Auschwitz and met one of the last 2 survivors of Auschwitz, and then they recounted the story about how he got out of Germany, and that entire story that was like 20 minutes long. And then he talks about jujitsu and all that good stuff. So I think there's no like good quotes that I remember. It's more of just like, oh, then there's Zach Rupert. He's talking about the nacho story. Pretty girls always get what they want. That's a great story. That's like the middle of his episode. There's a lot of stuff that's like, looking back on it, I don't remember exactly. Like there's been times I'll look back at an episode like a couple months later and I'll be like, did I actually say that? That's the smartest thing I never thought I would say. And then I realized I just got dumber, so that makes a lot of sense. But for the most part, I don't recall any other quotes except for that one.
Oh, okay. No, I was just curious because you obviously talk to a lot of people.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible. I don't know why they tolerate me.
I think it's a good gig, though, because it also seems like you have met a variety of people.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Variety, like on the spectrum, somewhere on the spectrum, everyone's somewhere. Yeah.
I like that, though, because everyone's memorable in their own way.
Yeah, for good or for bad.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm not in the bad category.
I'll let you know 6 months from now when I look back on this.
Okay.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Sweet. I should have
Thank
this.
you so much.
Yeah, of course. I should have all of this edited maybe within. I did an episode with Jay again. That was 3 hours. And I had Henry. He's 2 hours. I had one yesterday. That's probably going to be about an hour because we lost like 30 minutes of it. And then there's this one. So I don't know when it would be released, but do you have like any upcoming events that you wanted to get this before then?
No, I'm not in a hurry.
Okay. All right. So it might be like middle of August or so that it'll get released, but I'll let you know, and I'll send you a draft of it so you can see if there's anything. Oh, I don't really want that to be included or anything.
I'm sure I won't care, but
Yeah,
okay.
that's fine. I'm just saying that just so it's all good. But
did I give you my website and all of that? Oh, you have my website.
yeah, I'll have episode notes and everything, and I'll include all the your website, the Instagrams, and like I'll include everything that.
Oh, that's right,
you have.
because we're connected on Instagram now too. Yeah, you
Yeah.
have everything you need to know.
Yeah, so I'll just add it into the notes, and then if people want to knock themselves with that, then yeah, I'll go for it.
Awesome.
All right. Well, then
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. I'll see you when I see you. I don't know how to end any of these calls. I'm just like,
Yeah, no.
yeah,
It is kind of awkward, right?